Hey everyone, this is Mike. In yesterday's video I talked about that my comfortable job to go into Party Finder with is the Warrior, and in that video I also mentioned that today I will be talking about my go-to dungeon job, which is going to be the White Mage. Now, you might be wondering, why play a healer when you're already so comfortable on tanks, and if you like healers so much, why not play that in Party Finder as well? And the reason for that is very simple. First of all, I don't want to be responsible for 7 other people. 4 is already good enough when it comes down to doing dungeons. And on the other hand, whenever I go into Party Finder, you're usually going to be paired up with a different healer every single time as well. Now, if I were to be playing with my friends, I actually do enjoy playing healer in 8-man content. Like, I've done Hades on it a few times and some other things as well, like Savage raids and such. But I can communicate with those people, and if I can be like, oh, I'll do this here, you do this there, then it's actually really fun to play healer and to optimize your healing, because that, in my opinion, is a really fun thing about healing, being able to optimally heal the party without wasting too much healing. But of course, that is my personal healing fantasy. But when it comes down to Party Finder, just playing with random other people, you can't really do that, because you kind of need to play it safe, because you don't know what your co-healer is going to be doing. So sometimes wasted heals will happen, and that is not as fun for me. So when it comes down to playing healer, I like to play it optimally, and that is what I find so fun about the job. I do not like to just spam heals to keep people alive and then see that my other healer is doing exactly the same thing, so I'm not a huge fan of that. And then of course, when it comes down to extreme primals and savage raids, the mechanics are a whole lot more difficult and a lot more punishing as well, meaning that you're more often gonna have to make up for the mistakes that other people make. And now, I'm gonna say something very controversial, and that is that I play healer to do damage, not to heal. And that sounds really weird, but I'll go into that in just a bit. So every time that I have to make up for the mistakes that other people are making, I kinda don't like doing that as much. And when it comes down to dungeons, of course, the fights, the mobs, everything that you're doing is so much easier that usually people don't mess up as much. And if they do get hit by stuff that they are not supposed to get hit by, then it won't be doing as much damage to them, and it's a lot more easier to make up for that with maybe some off-global cooldown or other free resource that you have lying around. Because usually in dungeons you don't need to use all of the cooldowns that you have available to you at all, so you have some free stuff left for when people do mess up and get hit by something they're not supposed to get hit by. Now, the reason why I say I play healers to do damage, not to heal, is because whenever I go into dungeons, you don't technically need to heal all that much. I've compared it to some other people sometime when they ask me, like, for example, am I healing well enough, or am I doing not enough, or am I doing too much or something? And when you compare the logs sometimes, because every now and then I do have ACT open when I go into a dungeon, if it's after a raid session or something, and then it's really easy to see how much you do in those dungeons, and it actually doesn't require that much healing, especially when you're contributing a lot of damage as well. And I like my dungeons to go pretty smooth, I like my dungeons to go pretty fast. Nowadays, whenever I go into Expert Roulette, like, these dungeons have been here for 6 months or something in the same Expert Roulette, so it's getting a little bit boring. Really looking forward to getting a new dungeon in there in the next patch, which is in about like 2 weeks or something. But as it is right now, Expert Roulette isn't a whole lot of fun, and if I ever were to go into there, I just want to be done with it as fast as possible, because I'm kind of getting bored of the dungeons. So that is why healer is kind of the best job for me to play, because not only can I carry the team if they are making mistakes, because the healer is the backbone of the party, but I also know how to deal damage on a healer quite a lot as well, and thus know how to minimize the healing that I need to do, and I kind of know how much is required, because I'm the only healer in the dungeon. I know how much damage is going to be going out, so I can play it fairly optimized compared to something like a Party Finder, where I might not be as familiar with the damage output of the bosses and that kind of stuff. So that's why I quite like to play healer, because I know how to do a lot of damage on it. The more damage I can contribute to the party, the faster the dungeon run will go. Now, you might be wondering, well, if you just want to be done quick with the dungeon, why not play a DPS then? Because you can carry the damage so much harder on a DPS. And that is very true, but whenever you play DPS, you also need to queue as a DPS, and DPS queues usually still take quite a while, and dungeon queues for a healer are done in like literally 5 seconds or maybe like a minute or something, but it's still a whole lot faster than queuing as a DPS. And on the other hand, the damage variety in the healers that you see is usually quite big as well. There's still a lot of people that play healer that are of the mentality that they're a healer, they are supposed to heal, they are not there to do damage, so they quite literally just stand around not doing anything from time to time, and then of course the people that do want to try and do a little bit of DPS might not be doing the same as I do. You might not know this, but healers can do more damage than tanks in this game, which I still think is kind of crazy, but it is a fact. Healers deal more damage than tanks more often than not. So that is something that you do have to kind of keep in mind, and I would like to be able to do that as well, but there's a lot of healers out there that just can't do that, whether it be because they're not comfortable enough, whether or not they just don't want to, because as I said, there's a lot of people that play healer just to heal, not to deal damage, and that is why I like to just take that role upon myself, because I know I can do the damage, I know I don't need to heal as much, and then that creates for a relatively smooth dungeon experience. Now, the reason why I pick White Mage for this is actually very deliberate for a couple of different reasons. So first of all, just like Warrior, White Mage is pretty chill to play. It's the easiest healer out of all three. You don't have a crazy amount of off-global cooldowns. Like if you look at Astrologian, they have all of their cards that they have to manage, and then they have most of their healing coming from off-global cooldowns. Same thing with Scholar, they have their pet that they have to manage with. For some reason, every time I come out of a mini-boss, I tend to just forget my fairy, leave her behind, and then she kind of despawns. I really hope that one day they change this so that whenever you run out of range of your fairy, she'll just like automatically follow you instead of just despawn. But hopefully they change that sometime in the future. And otherwise I just need to get used to just calling my fairy back instead of just leaving her behind. But yeah, you have your fairy that you have to manage, you have your Aether Flow, so again, a lot of off-global cooldowns where your healing is going to be coming from. But with White Mage is the opposite. Most of your healing from White Mage is going to be coming from your GCDs, and even your free healing tools, like your lilies, are still GCDs as well, meaning that you don't have that many off-global cooldowns to press, meaning that you're basically just not going to be pressing as many buttons as you are doing on the other two. Now, of course, you still have a lot of off-global cooldowns that you can use as well, but for the most part, a lot of your healing comes from your GCDs. Now, another reason is because we have Holy. Holy, in my opinion, is the most broken tool that White Mage has when it comes down to dungeons, because it prevents your tank from taking damage for about 7 seconds, give or take a little bit, because of how the stun resistance works on the monsters. But basically, during those 7 seconds, your tank is barely going to be taking damage, meaning that you don't need to heal as much, meaning that you can deal more damage. So White Mage is really good for that, because if you have a tank that might not be rotating through their cooldowns that well, it doesn't really matter because they're already going to be taking less damage, purely because of the fact that you are a White Mage and not one of the other two healers. Outside of that, you also still have a lot of other tools to just assist you in that healing. You still have Benediction as a panic heal. For example, if you have like a Dark Knight or a Warrior, like those two invulns are really annoying to heal for the most part, but Benediction just really takes care of that super easy by just the press of one button. Outside of that, you still have all of your Lily heals, of course. You still have Tetragrammaton. You can give them a shield in Divine Benison. You have Asylum to just put down as a regen effect. As long as they stay in it, they will be healed. A Size is also great because not only does it heal the tank and other party members that might have gotten hit, but it also still does AoE damage, so you can use that on mob packs as well to just do a burst of damage. And then last but not least, Afflatus Misery, the Blood Lily. That thing does a crazy amount of AoE damage as well, so you can kind of see where I'm going with this. Not only are you preventing a lot of damage being dealt to the tank through your Holy, you can also use your Wings, which I forget the actual name of it, Temperance I believe it's called, because that also decreases all the damage people take by 10% for 20 seconds, so that actually is quite long. And then you're also getting stronger heals on top of that, so you're preventing a lot of damage, you've got a lot of strong heals if you need to do, or if you need them, and you also have a lot of different other free tools that you can use if people do make mistakes. That is kind of why White Mage is my go-to job. It is very simple to play, everybody can literally pick up and play it. It doesn't matter if you've ever played healer before or not. If you do need to use your normal GCD heals, they are incredibly strong as well. For example, if you look at Scholar, if you need to AoE heal, well, if you don't have your AoE tools ready, like your Indom or something from your Fairy, then just spamming Sucker feels really bad, but with White Mage, you can just spam some Cure 3s if you really need to, and you're going to be able to output a very strong amount of healing, which is really good. And then of course you have all of these different off-global cooldown tools as well as your Lily heals, so that you actually have a lot of heals available if you do need them, and then those also kind of translate into damage, like for example the Lilies turning into the Blood Lily and then being able to get some damage back that way. So I talked about it at length, a little bit more about what my opinions are on White Mage. Really enjoying that job at the moment, and just because of how strong it is in dungeons makes it my go-to pick. to play in dungeons myself. So that's gonna be it for me. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Do you think White Mage is pretty fun to play in dungeons as well? Or do you have another job that you like to play in dungeons yourself? I'm quite interested to see what all of your favorite picks are for just that. But yeah, that's gonna be it for me. I wanna thank you for watching. I wanna thank my Patreons for supporting me, and I'll see you in the next one.